We're often told that life is this constant struggle, right? A battle you have to win. But what if that's not true? What if instead life is actually a game you can learn to play and play well? We're going to dive into this really powerful idea that reality isn't a battlefield at all. It's more like a mirror, just reflecting back whatever you put out there. So let's get right into it. So think about it this way. On one hand, you've got the battle mindset. That's where life feels like this uphill climb, full of resistance, and honestly, you feel pretty powerless against it all. But then there's the game or mirror mindset, and this is a total game changer. It says that reality is something you create. It's governed by rules, sure, but you are the main player. You actually have a say in how it all turns out. All right, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to break it down into 6 parts. We'll start with shifting our basic perception, then we'll dig into the rules of how this reality works. After that, we'll look at the tools at your disposal, your thoughts and words. Then we'll cover how to actually play and win, how to navigate the common obstacles, and we'll wrap up with why the final move is always yours. Okay, let's jump into that first big idea, that fundamental shift. How do we actually stop seeing life as a fight and start seeing it for what it could be, a field of play? The writer Florence Scovel Shinn said it so well way back in 1925. She said, "Most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle. It is a game." Think about that. It means the secret isn't to just fight harder. The secret is to learn the rules of the game and then play it skillfully. And honestly, this one little shift in thinking, it's the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. Okay, so if it's a game, what are the rules, right? How does it actually work? Well, what's fascinating is that two very different thinkers, writing decades apart, basically describe the exact same core principle. Let's take a look at how their ideas link up. So first up, we've got this idea from Vadim Zeland called the dual mirror. Imagine our physical world. Everything you can see and touch is one side of a mirror. He says the other side is this huge, unseen field of information he calls the alternative space. It's basically an infinite library of every possible thing that could ever happen. And our reality is just a reflection of one of those possibilities. Now here's where it gets really cool. Let's connect that to Florence Scovel Shinn's idea of the subconscious mind. She saw it as this incredibly powerful servant, but one with no direction of its own. It's just waiting for orders. So whatever image, whatever deep feeling you give it, you impress upon it, it just says, okay, and gets to work bringing that exact thing into your life, right down to the last detail. So you see the connection. It doesn't matter what you call it, whether it's a mirror reflecting an alternative or a subconscious mind following orders, they're both pointing to the exact same core rule of the game. Your outer world is always a direct reflection of what's going on inside your mind. All right, so if reality really is a mirror, that brings up a pretty big question. How do we create the image it reflects? Well, that's where our tools come in. Our thoughts and our words. Those are the controls we use to play this game. Shinn was super clear about this. She even quoted that ancient proverb, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." And she meant it literally, not just as a nice metaphor. Every time we speak, we're essentially making laws for ourselves. We're programming our own reality, whether it's for success or for failure. So how does this actually work mechanically? Well, think of it like this. Your thoughts send out a certain kind of energy, almost like a radio signal. That signal tunes into a matching scenario in that big alternative space. At the very same time, those thoughts are stamping an image onto your subconscious. That image becomes the record, the blueprint that your life then faithfully builds and plays back for you. Okay, so let's recap. We've got the rules of the game and we know what our tools are. So the next logical step is, how do we actually play? What are the strategies for winning, for consciously creating the reality we actually want? It really boils down to this simple 3-step cycle. First, you have to choose a true goal. And by true, I mean something your heart is really drawn to, not something your parents or society expects of you. Second, create the image. Zeland has a great term for this. He calls it the target slide. It's that crystal clear picture in your mind of the goal already being achieved. And finally, and this one is absolutely crucial, you have to act as if. Start preparing for your success. Act like it's already a done deal. But there's a really important distinction we have to make here, and it's between desire and intention. Needy desire, that feeling of, oh, I really, really want this, I hope I get it, that actually creates resistance and pushes your goal away. What you're aiming for is intention. That's a calm, solid determination. It's the difference between hoping and knowing. It's shifting from I want this to I choose to have this, and so I will. Now, of course, no game is just smooth sailing, right? There are always obstacles. And if you want to play well, you've got to learn to spot the forces, both outside of you and inside of you, that are trying to knock you off course and drain your energy. Zealand has a name for these external obstacles. He calls them pendulums. Just picture these massive energy structures that get created anytime a big group of people starts thinking the same way. These pendulums don't care about you one bit. All they want is your energy to keep themselves swinging, and they get it by sucking you in with one simple rule: do as I do. And these things are absolutely everywhere once you start looking. Think about fashion trends telling you what's cool, or political myths trying to get you angry. Think about rigid corporate structures that tell you what your career has to look like, or mass media narratives that are constantly feeding you fear. They all work the same way. They try to lure you off your path and onto a path that serves them. Okay, so that's the external enemy. What about the internal one? Well, according to Shin, your number one enemy is fear. But I love how she reframes this. She says fear isn't just an emotion. It's actually inverted faith. It's taking that powerful engine of belief, the same one that can create amazing things, and just pointing it in the wrong direction. It is, quite literally, faith in a bad outcome. It's faith in failure. All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've talked about the game, the rules, your tools, and the obstacles. So, what's the big takeaway here? Where do we go from here? Look at what you have now. You have a whole new model. You get that life is a game, not some brutal battle. You know that your tools are your own thoughts and words. You have a strategy. Choose a real goal and act with calm intention. And you know what to watch out for: those external pendulums and your own internal fear. The game board is set. Your reality is just sitting there waiting for your move. And in the end, it all comes down to this one powerful idea, summed up perfectly in that quote: be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The change doesn't happen out there in the world. It happens inside you. You have to change the image you're holding first, and then the mirror, your reality, it has absolutely no choice but to reflect that new image back to you. So really, this leaves us with just one last really important question. The conversation isn't about can I win or is the game fair anymore. You've just been handed the rulebook. So the only question that matters now is, how are you going to choose to play?